issue. It's a communal issue. And we can never have enough law enforcement on the street to protect all of our communities from guns and violence. And that law you speak of, that you suggest Michael Lamb said is unenforceable, because at the state level, we attempted to get lost and stolen, and it was defeated. The one thing that we were able to do, though, is get, for the first time in our General Assembly's history, get a debate and discussion about lost and stolen going. And then little municipalities across the Commonwealth started to take it up themselves. The fact of the matter is, when you talk about lost and stolen, and as a mayor, again, the punishment for dealing in a lost and stolen gun.
There's a minute and 30 seconds for each response. The timers are in the front row and they're going to give you, that's fine. So that was that response, thank you. You'll get it again. Mr. Wagner.
As mayor, I would sign and enforce that legislation. Number one. Number two, the best tool to prevent crime is to provide employment for young people. I would work very hard to get the companies, the corporations of this town to offer summer employment to our youth. It's an excellent thing to do to get them prepared for work later, and obviously for college also. 20 years ago, 1993, I was president of City Council, and I successfully passed an assault weapons ban as the first city in Pennsylvania to do so. That was 20 years ahead of the issue. That's how strongly I felt being a Marine Corps Vietnam veteran that carried an assault weapon. And quite frankly, if that legislation was still in place 3 or 4 years ago, officers may not have died. So I'm a strong advocate of assault weapons ban, smaller magazines, no straw purchases, and making sure that people who are not mentally stable have guns. And that needs to come from the mayor. Now, that law may not change in Harrisburg, but what I would do as mayor is to ask Harrisburg to give us that ability once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I think that the key is connection. How do we prevent crime? How do we deal with the whole excessive amount of guns that is flustering through our city? It's connection. Connect with the people. Find out what's wrong with you, what's bothering you, your issues, your concerns, your complaints. I totally agree with Councilwoman Harris. We have to get involved in our communities. I got over 10 years experience in community activism, so we can't put the burden of proof on law enforcement, because more cops on the streets means more money out of our pockets to pay for their overtimes. We need to step up. We need to step up to the challenge. We need to sit here and say, you know what? This is a city of the working man where we can be respected and move forward. We can police our own. We can protect our own. We can raise our children effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to step away from crime, but this next question has been in the local news cycles for the last month or so, and it's going to go to all the candidates, starting with Mr. Peduto and then Mr. Richardson and so on. This question will be asked by Diane Shaw.
Thomas Jefferson once alluded to the fact that any large institution is bound to have some corruption. But what will you do as mayor to create an atmosphere that limits corruption? And if you can, give us one example in your career when you were part of an organization and helped that organization limit corruption.
1 minute.
Thomas Jefferson never visited Pittsburgh. So it's a culture of excellence. I'm very proud. I was the first person in 13 years, the first Pennsylvanian in 13 years to win an award from a group called Common Cause for Good Government. I put in place the ending of no-bid contracts, strengthened our ethics code, worked to make campaign finance reform a reality, and even worked on other issues to take the pay-to-play politics out of it. I stood up when the mayor tried to put somebody in a public safety director's position who had no experience in public safety. Stood up when an illegal billboard was being put up, which was more about graft than a billboard. Stood up when a PWSA contract was changed to award it to a well-connected firm. And all of those people ended up out of government. What we need is a complete cleaning. We don't need a red-up crew down in our neighborhoods. We need a red-up crew in City Hall.
As a child, I can remember when my mother used to, send me off to school, and she said, "You need to watch those little boys over there. They watch that wrong crowd." And it starts to going back and forth in my mind as a man. We have to be careful of who we surround ourselves with. I think how we limit corruption is to be mindful of the individuals that we coexist to bring certain laws into existence. Another saying is to be careful of the company that you keep. We got to realize that first and foremost that we are a people that can be influenced as well as influenced. And when you begin to focus on what you have surrounding yourself, then ultimately you can you can begin to emulate their behavior. So I think for the most part is to have a team that's on one accord, that sees the vision, that they can connect to, and ultimately, provide a better life and a better living for all of Western PA.
I'll try and give you a few examples in 1 minute. As Auditor General, we changed the direction of PHEA, the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, which has $500 million of your taxpayer dollars every year, and there were corrupt things going on and money's misspent galore. Our audit 5 years ago changed the direction of PHEA. I have been the strongest advocate in Pennsylvania for changing the funding formula for charter and cyber charter schools. Why? Because the Pittsburgh public school system is losing literally tens of millions of dollars every year because they're paying the same approximate cost to cyber charter schools, where a child stays home and goes to school on a computer the same amount as in a building in the Pittsburgh public school system. So we have had audit after audit after audit to change the direction of how government works, including, incidentally, the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And just look at what you've read over the last week. There are problems in city government, ladies and gentlemen, and no one is addressing them. And that's disturbing.
I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to tell you that I know we have in the newspapers seen the corrupt politicians, but there are a lot of corrupt processes that damage our process and our system from working. And so I'll give you a quick example because I only have a couple of minutes, a couple seconds. And that is the same thing we identified at the state level we see happening on the city level. When we have programs in place that are supposed to open up fairness and make sure equitable businesses have a fair shot, but the processes are in place, there's no transparency, there's no monitoring, there's no accountability. That's a corrupt system that needs to be changed. And I believe, in my opinion, there are many of those things happening throughout our city government that if we don't have transparency, some accountability measures, some way of a mayor and others setting some accountability standards and monitoring it, we will continue to see corrupt processes damaging our community and our economy.
Okay, how will I? Actually, I started back again as a community person. I am not a professional politician and never was. I came because I just wanted to make one neighborhood a better place to live, and then the north side a better place to live, and now the city. I don't have a lot of money to spend, and corruption comes from money too. When you go into a position like this, everybody wants to buy you and give you money. I've never been sold, and I never will be. I started with a cash management study at the city right now for city council to have the controller look at the monies of the city. There are people that are working for the city, they're good and bust their can every day working for the city. But there are others that don't, that are hardly ever there. And those people are afraid if I get in as mayor. Because if I get in as mayor, the people that work for the city will work for you. Thank you.
I
I took over the city controller's office 5 years ago with the goal of creating the most transparent, open, and honest office in city government, and we've succeeded in doing that. We've done it in a number of ways. First off, holding our employees to the highest of ethical standards. Secondly, creating Open Book Pittsburgh, which is a website that looks at all of the city's contractual relationships and also matches that with all of the city officials' campaign contributions. And guess what? There's overlap. But you know, we don't make a judgment about it, but we get it out there so people can see it. I've always believed that sunlight is the best disinfectant, so we're opening the windows on city government and the city controller's office, and as mayor, we're going to make this city government the most open, transparent, and honest government that this city's ever seen. Thanks.
Okay. We're going to move on to another round. We're going to split this into 2 rounds. The first question will go to Mr. Wagner, Mr. Wheatley, and then Mr. Richardson in that order. And Sadiq will ask this question. You'll have 1.5 minutes.
How will you encourage private companies to either start their businesses here or to relocate here? And how will you keep the existing companies in the area?
Many of the questions being asked today are better than the media questions that we get. Number one, there has to be an open city government where people with good ideas can come to government with those ideas and they can get the support that they need, whether it's high technology, whether it's a firm that wants to relocate here. But the best way we can keep jobs is by working with the companies that are already here and growing jobs. We have one such issue with United States Steel Corporation. United States Steel Corporation lease in the old U.S. Steel building, now UPMC, will be up in a year or 2. We want to make sure we keep U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh. But the mayor of Pittsburgh has to be in touch with the business leaders in the large companies and in the nonprofits and in the university community to make sure that jobs grow here. But really where the majority of new jobs come are from small companies. Pittsburgh is rated 25th in the most recent Forbes analysis of small businesses. Pittsburgh needs to be an incubator kind of city. We need to work with the high-tech council. We need to work with the research within the universities to start companies and to grow jobs.
In 1984, this region was seeing 50,000 people or more leaving in droves. We were losing because our economy had taken a severe hit. Fast forward to today, we've seen that we're one of 3 U.S. regions that are seeing job growth and house price appreciation. What that's telling me is we're doing something's right. So we need to support those things that we're doing right and continue those things. Jack hit it on the nail on the head, the nail on the hill when he said, small businesses though are where we need to do more and a better job. And not just small business, but women, veteran, and minority-owned businesses need to be supported in ways that grow them, because as we talk about our economy and our region, we're seeing that the real growth happens when we are attractive to all of our citizenry, and that we say to our citizenry, no matter where you're from, no matter how you look, no matter who you are, we're open for business. And under a Wheatley administration, that will certainly be the message that is conveyed and followed. Thank you.
I'm a firm believer that this city has the capabilities of thriving way beyond our own imagination, where we begin to respect the working man. Every great existence that we all had to endure at one point in time in our lives stems off the blood, sweat, and tears of the working man. What can we propose to bring folks back here and to want to build and start families? I mean, aside from the fact that, you know, this is a city of champions, I would say that we will sit here and implement certain programs such as affordable child care, stronger mentoring programs, teach these young mothers and fathers how to be responsible young mothers and fathers. Really start to connect with people. You're going to hear me say this time and time again, but I think the most point in time where we can get a child to sit here and change their direction is by connecting with them. I'm all about preventatives. Not after the child is dead, unfortunately, and is buried and is a funeral, but what can we do to prevent that child from being murdered? Thank you.